The story of the Ford GT40 begins with one of the greatest rivalries in automotive history. In 1963, Ford attempted to purchase Ferrari. The negotiations lasted for months, but at the last moment, Enzo Ferrari walked away from the deal after disagreements over racing control. Henry Ford II reportedly left furious and instructed his team to build a car that would defeat Ferrari at the 24 Hours of Le Mans. That challenge would change motorsport forever.
Ford initially partnered with Lola Cars and used the Lola Mk6 as the starting point for what would become the GT40. Early prototypes were fast but unreliable, suffering repeated mechanical failures and aerodynamic instability. Eventually, Carroll Shelby and Shelby American took over development, refining the car into a genuine endurance racing machine.
The name GT40 came from two simple facts. GT stood for Grand Touring, while 40 referred to the car's incredibly low height of just 40 inches. Looking at the GT40 today, it's almost hard to believe it was designed in the early 1960s. Its low roof, wide stance, and aggressive proportions still look modern decades later. Several engine combinations were used throughout development, but the most famous versions were powered by Ford's massive 7-liter V8 derived from NASCAR competition. In race trim, the engine produced well over 480 horsepower and massive torque, allowing the GT40 to dominate the long straights of Le Mans. The cockpit was extremely cramped. Drivers often complained about excessive heat, poor ventilation, and uncomfortable seating positions during 24-hour races. Because the roof was so low, taller drivers could barely fit inside while wearing helmets. After years of development, everything finally came together in 1966. At Le Mans, Ford achieved one of the most famous victories in racing history by finishing first, second, and third, ending Ferrari's 6-year dominance of the event. The famous staged photo finish remains controversial today because some believe Ken Miles deserved the outright victory after leading much of the race. Ford wasn't finished. The GT40 would go on to win Le Mans again in 1967, 1968, and 1969, becoming the first American manufacturer to claim 4 consecutive overall victories. The 1967 GT40 Mk4 became the first and only entirely American-designed and American-built car to win Le Mans outright. Beyond Le Mans, GT40s also found success at Daytona, Sebring, and countless endurance races around the world. Only around 105 GT40s were ever built across all variants, making surviving examples among the most valuable collector cars on Earth. Today, the GT40 is remembered not simply as a race car, but as the machine that proved determination and engineering could overcome one of Europe's greatest racing empires. After the GT40 disappeared, Ford spent decades without a true halo supercar. Then, seemingly out of nowhere, the company unveiled one of the craziest concept cars ever created, the Ford GT90. Introduced at the 1995 Detroit Auto Show, the GT90 looked more like a spaceship than an automobile. Its sharp angles pioneered Ford's new edge design language years before it appeared on production vehicles like the Focus and Mustang. The GT90 was completed in just over 6 months by a secret engineering team working under intense deadlines. Underneath the body sat an aluminum honeycomb monocoque chassis with carbon fiber panels. The most unbelievable feature was its engine. Ford created a 5.9-liter quad-turbocharged V12, producing approximately 720 horsepower and 660 pound-feet of torque. The engine itself was experimental. Engineers effectively combined modular V8 architecture to create a unique 12-cylinder power plant. Cooling the engine became such a challenge that portions of the exhaust glowed bright red during testing. Ford partnered with aerospace suppliers to develop ceramic heat shielding capable of surviving temperatures exceeding 1,600 degrees Fahrenheit. The GT90 was projected to reach more than 250 miles per hour, which would have made it one of the fastest cars in the world. Although it never entered production, many enthusiasts believe the GT90 predicted styling trends that would appear years later in both Ford products and exotic supercars. Its appearance in racing games introduced an entire generation of gamers to the concept, turning it into one of the most famous concept cars ever made. Even today, many fans still ask the same question: what if Ford had actually built it? To celebrate Ford's 100th anniversary, the company decided to revive one of its greatest legends. The result was the 2004 Ford GT. Unlike many retro-inspired vehicles, the Ford GT wasn't simply nostalgic styling wrapped around ordinary engineering. It was a genuine supercar designed to honor the original GT40. Its circular taillights, flying buttresses, clamshell rear hatch, and mid-engine layout all paid tribute to its ancestor. Interestingly, the production car isn't called the GT40 because Ford no longer owned the rights to the name. Power came from a 5.4-liter supercharged V8, producing 550 horsepower and 500 pound-feet of torque. The Lysholm screw-type supercharger produced one of the most recognizable sounds of any American performance car. Performance was extraordinary for the mid-2000s. 0 to 60 miles per hour took around 3.3 seconds, while top speed exceeded 205 miles per hour. Engineers even had to make the roof slightly taller than the original GT40 because modern drivers simply would not fit inside the 40-inch silhouette. A hidden tribute exists inside the headlights. When illuminated, the internal reflector design subtly forms the number 100, celebrating Ford's centennial. The aluminum space frame chassis provided exceptional rigidity while keeping weight relatively low. Unlike many exotic cars, owners quickly discovered the Ford GT was remarkably reliable. Some accumulated tens of thousands of miles without significant issues. The car became popular among celebrities, collectors, and racing enthusiasts alike. Only a little over 4,000 units were produced between 2004 and 2006, making it one of Ford's most exclusive modern vehicles. Today, pristine examples regularly sell for several times their original purchase price, cementing the 2004 Ford GT as one of America's greatest collector cars. If the 2004 GT celebrated history, the 2017 Ford GT was focused entirely on the future. Unveiled in 2015, the second-generation GT abandoned retro styling in favor of radical aerodynamics inspired by endurance racing prototypes. Its flying buttresses weren't simply for appearance. Massive tunnels carved through the rear of the body directed airflow to reduce drag and generate downforce. The body itself was constructed almost entirely from carbon fiber. Perhaps the most controversial decision was Ford's choice of engine. Instead of using a V8, engineers selected a 3.5-liter twin-turbocharged EcoBoost V6 producing 647 horsepower. Many traditionalists criticized the decision, but the engine proved incredibly effective both on the road and on the racetrack. The 7-speed dual-clutch transmission allowed nearly instantaneous gear changes, helping the GT accelerate from 0 to 60 miles per hour in under 3 seconds. Top speed reached 216 miles per hour, making it the fastest production Ford ever built. The fixed carbon fiber seats were bolted directly to the chassis. Rather than moving the seat, drivers adjusted the pedals and steering wheel to fit themselves. The steering wheel itself looked more like something from a Formula One car than a traditional road vehicle. Perhaps the greatest achievement came in 2016. Exactly 50 years after Ford defeated Ferrari for the first time, the race version of the new GT returned to Le Mans and won the LMGTE Pro Class, completing one of motorsport's greatest anniversary celebrations. Ford intentionally timed the project so the victory could occur on the 50th anniversary of the original triumph. Buying one wasn't easy either. Prospective owners had to submit applications explaining why they should be selected. Ford even restricted resale during the early ownership period to discourage flipping. Many celebrities and wealthy collectors were denied despite having the money to purchase one. Throughout production, Ford released numerous heritage editions honoring famous GT40 race cars from the 1960s, including liveries inspired by Gulf Oil and Le Mans winners. The 2017 GT demonstrated that American engineering could compete with the world's best hypercars using innovation rather than tradition. As production of the modern GT approached its conclusion, Ford and Multimatic decided to remove every compromise. The result was the 2023 Ford GT Mk4. Unlike previous GT models, the Mk4 was never designed for public roads. Without emissions regulations or street legal requirements, engineers focused exclusively on lap times. The wheelbase was lengthened significantly to improve stability and aerodynamic efficiency. The body featured an all-new long-tail design, generating dramatically more downforce than the standard GT. Power came from a specially engineered twin-turbocharged EcoBoost engine producing more than 800 horsepower. The suspension employed Multimatic's adaptive spool valve technology, allowing incredible precision over bumps and through corners. A bespoke racing transmission replaced the standard road car gearbox, while nearly every component was optimized for circuit performance. Only 67 examples will ever exist, commemorating the 1967 GT Mk4 that won Le Mans with Dan Gurney and A.J. Foyt. Because the Mk4 isn't bound by racing regulations either, engineers were free to maximize performance without worrying about homologation rules. The result is arguably the closest thing Ford has ever produced to a modern Le Mans prototype for private owners. Its price approached $1.7 million before customization, instantly making it one of the most expensive vehicles in Ford history. In 2026, the GT Mk4 added another chapter to its legacy by setting a blistering 6-minute 15.977-second Nürburgring lap, becoming the fastest American car ever around the circuit and the quickest internal combustion-powered car recorded there. For collectors fortunate enough to own one, the Mk4 represents the absolute pinnacle of Ford performance engineering. Thank you for watching. If you like the content, subscribe and join the Apex for daily car content.